that kind of happening as well as we do get into game number 1 of this matchup. So we're going to start it off in the bottom left-hand side with the red Protoss, SCV.
And spawning over in the top right as our blue Terran, it is Coffe. This is a very early SCV, by the way, like very early. So this is before you'd usually put down an engineering bay. So most likely going to be some proxy rack shenanigans going down from Coffe here. And when I think about his playstyle, he's usually sort of a by-the-book Terran, like just solid fundamentals and what have you, and just plays a good game. So this already from him, it doesn't feel out of character, so to speak. It just feels good to do.
Yep. No, it's you know, to me, Coffe is one of these players as well who is just always able to kind of do so many different things, and then you just double gas it up at the start. You get a proxy going, and it's just dangerous without being overly committed, right? We'll see what else he proxies. We'll see how hard he goes on it. There is a probe kind of taking a weird route across the map as well, by the way. So SCV maybe also having some plans here. As his gate finishes, he'll cybercore at home. But looks like that probe is just going to come across, just didn't want to be seen on the way over. And is going to go in for the scout and realize that, hey, there's no barracks there.
We've seen, we've seen a bit of TVP today already. And this is already lining up to be a very different TVP, isn't it? Like Bunker coming down in the natural, we know that a Reaper will be joining that very quickly. And a Zealot hasn't been made against this proxy, which is, it's a choice that you make. And granted, this Reaper isn't, or rather Reaper Bunker, isn't going to be able to, by the way, nice dancing with this SCV. It's not going to be able to kill this Nexus, but it's definitely not something you want to be dealing with. Like, he has to throw down a shield battery pretty quickly, which I think he's getting in position to do just that. Yep, he is, and honestly, this is just an irritating start if you're in SCV shoes.
Yeah, no, I mean, you're under a lot of pressure, you're going to be taking damage, you got your Stalker out now, your probes have already been pulling though, and you're going to lose one probe here at the very least. This Reaper makes its getaway, and it will be able to outrun that Stalker to the bunker, so it gets to the bunker alive and healthy. And now you've got a Reaper in the bunker, the SCV here to do some repairing, and of course that battery finishing up is going to now keep the Stalker alive so we can make this trade out happen for the foreseeable future.
I like that Coffe sent his second Reaper back home to deal with that scouting probe. Just to get it off the map, deal your damage, get stuff done, and he will most likely lose out this bunker, but it's stopped the mining here for the time being. Will lose his own SCV as well, gets to salvage it as well just in time. I think this went as good as you can hope if you're Coffe.
Yeah, honestly, this was great, right? Like, you put some pressure on, you get a probe across the map as well. You still got both Reapers, you didn't pay for the bunker. Well, you paid 25 minerals for the bunker. Yeah, I mean, this is really spot on. He's now got a couple of Hellions building too. We'll see what the next stage of aggression comes as from Coffe. Because he is getting those Hellions out. He's going to have the starport as well. 2 Hellions into Mines is quite popular. He's actually going to drop a tech lab, I believe, on that starport immediately. So no medevac as he just goes up to the 4 Hellions. Yeah,
definitely interesting. And I mean, he is against the Stargate opening. Hasn't been able to scout that, I don't believe, because these Reapers have... they've had other things on their mind. His mineral count was getting high. Oh, Banshee. Cloak could be super annoying if not found out. And normally, with the Phoenix... I mean, I played against Roddy a lot in my life. They want to get that Phoenix across the map just to find out what they're up against. But he's just kind of scouting around just to make sure that the proxy shenanigans aren't ongoing and just trying to make sure that, okay, I'm not against like some weird follow-up, but it's a sort of weird follow-up, isn't it? 2 Reapers here, gonna run, charge right into the main, keeping those Stalkers behind with the grenades. Very nice.
Lovely grenades. It allows the Hellions to really come in, and the Phoenix are just a little out of position. Now they're gonna have to start lifting, but we actually left 3 Hellions on the ground, so you still have one-shot potential against the probes. A couple low HP probes will go down at the end as well. That's 10 workers killed. Successful attack in from Coffe. And I love the fact that he's then going into the Cloak Banshee behind this, the Marine tank. I love the units he's going to have on the follow-up for this. I feel like this is going to put Coffe in a great spot.
I think it is. It absolutely is, actually. I mean, don't get me wrong. This Stalker squad, if there isn't going to be a bunker, I mean, there's a tank already. He's looking quite pretty here. Going into 3 barracks as well. I like this opening a lot by him. it's groovy, isn't it? I mean, the Phoenix do have a lot of potential here to lift up the tank, and then the Stalkers can deal damage. But, very importantly here, he got sight of the Cloak upgrade. Now, he does have a Robo available, does have one Observer. Now, that Observer has a big task here. Unfortunately, it's in the slight wrong location here, but it's still close enough that this Banshee shouldn't get too much done.
Yep, the Phoenix turn around.
Great play.
Yeah. Going to be able to shoot this down, so only a couple of probes falling. That's kind of what you need, because you already took a bunch of damage, right? The last thing you wanted was to take even further damage from this. So that is nice. The Marine tank setup was kind of poking forward. The Stalkers kind of traded with them ever so slightly. Not the biggest of deals. And that's where we're going to be chilling at the moment as we resettle back down onto this natural. Coffe is, sieged his tanks. And as he moves into Stimming +1, it doesn't really seem as though he's got any real purpose to move onto the map anytime soon.
No, definitely not. I mean, that cloak, for everybody watching, that's a massive commitment. Like, what he wanted out of that was, another 10 probes or so, or at least time bought. Because, I mean, he even cancelled the second Banshee because the Phoenix got on top there just to see it happening. For 2 probes, a tiny bit of lost mining time, not what you're after. So, we can definitely say that SCV is more than back in this game now. Not necessarily winning, because he lost 10 workers earlier, but he got himself out of a really bad situation.
Yep. Yeah, managed to drag himself out of that one, and now here we go. Colossus extending thermal lance coming through the Nexus building as well from SCV as he just techs, then takes the third base. I mean, obviously still worker count not brilliant, and obviously having a late third is not ideal. Interesting to see what Coffe does, because obviously right now, currently on that 3-rack setup, is he going to drop a third CC? Is he going to fully send this with the 3 racks? I mean, it looks as though he was saving up money there, so he could have afforded the third for a couple moments, but then he added on some more production again. As he does start to push out, there's going to definitely be some aggression, and I have to imagine there's still a third behind this, because we are continuously going up towards 400 minerals being floated, so I can imagine that's only a matter of time.
I mean, he's going to have 5 tanks out soon. Like, if he does go for a third, it's going to be... He's still going to bank on dealing a lot of damage with this push. And I mean, he's just going to make sure he's got solid production here. Like, really solid. And he's brought SCVs with us as well, Wardy. I'm not sure if he is going to go for a third. He's getting a Widow Mine as well behind this. But he knows what kind of army he's against now. And there's no charge in sight. No blink in sight either. Like, Coffee's in great shape here. I love this drop as well. A big Gabe drop.
Yeah, they'll drop over to the side, and a couple of Phoenix actually going to have the super battery to help, but that means no super battery on the third base, so the tanks encroaching on that position are likely going to find a huge amount of success there. And obviously you have the tanks having to take it pretty slow, and I love the missile turrets too, just in case Phoenix try and come into this position. They're also going to help against Colossus, so missile turrets are not a bad thing, and that's where the extra money was going. I was continuously wondering where that, mineral bank was going to head. That wasn't a huge one, but it had me thinking of the third. If you spend it on missile turrets, that's going to help you with this push and keep you committed here. The tank shots immediately do so much. Now the Phoenix do commit in. We're going to drop them pretty quickly, though. That means the tanks are back on the ground. And man, this was brutal. The Colossus going down in the process, and Coffe is on one heck of a position right now.
Yeah, I mean, look at that. That is such a setup outside this base, and he is so damn committed to this push, but I think it's the right move here, because that base is forfeit. And as SCV backs off, it's not as if his army's getting significantly better here. I mean, charge is so damn far away. Lost all those Phoenix, by the way. Like, his army is looking so bleak against these tanks.
Yeah.
Ooh, nice fire on this SCV line.
It really is. Coffe just needs to keep getting the tanks closer and closer to range. A couple of times the SCV's getting ahead of themselves, as you just mentioned. Yeah, if these tanks just keep pushing up, I can only imagine good things from them as the Marines drop off. A couple of probes begin to go down, so damage being done nicely here. That is going to be a dead battery as well. These tanks will siege up, and again, just in range of that Colossus for a couple of moments is huge. We're going to see the opportunity to get this super battery. Put it in mind of the pylon, maybe depower that robo facility. Yeah, I mean, dropping the main base, dealing damage as well, and Coffe just keeps on adding it up right now as he's got a 20 supply lead. And I mean, he is now finally building a third back at home too, so he's moving into that. It's just this problem of these tanks can never be broken out from. It's just too much. There's just too many of them, and there's no way to kind of do it. I mean, I guess we're about to have charge. I guess that's the plan, but way too little, way too late.
Way too late, yeah, indeed. I mean, oh, those Zealots are so sad right now. This is moments before charge is done. I mean, that back line just getting absolutely melted here. Absolutely solid play out of Coffe here. And Yeah, that's what I like to see out of my boy Coffe. Coffe.
Coffe. Yeah, Coffe is super effective here against SCV, as he will take the 1-0 lead in the best of 3. So, I mean, very Coffe-esque, right? Aggression from the start. He opens with that proxy, and he just doesn't stop. We know he loves his time in base builds. We know he loves his kind of weirdness in TVP. You know, very Hero Marine-esque. And that's exactly what he hits with here. Just super aggro, pulls a few SCVs, not afraid to double down and build the turrets and be like, yeah, this is the position I want to hold forevermore. And yeah, that puts us into, I mean, a very fun game to watch if you're a Coffe fan. Rough one for SCV because it felt like the moment those tanks first got sieged, he was just doomed. Like, he had just no way to ever break out of that. And again, Charge, if Charge had finished like 20 seconds after their first siege, maybe there's a chance. But then Charge finishing when like the game is ending already, that was maybe his one chance that just never got the chance to come through.
It's also like that opening with the 2 Reaper and 4 Hellions, like the grenades to keep those initial Stalkers away from his units dealing the damage was really clean out of Coffe, right? Like, just a lot of setup, and you can feel the 1, 2, like it's a several step process to getting this tank push to work in, and it just all lined up beautifully. And you're looking at the game, it's like, is he going to go for a third? And then when you see it all accumulate like that, it's like, nah, he made all the right moves, didn't he?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I like I say, the third, you know, sometimes you kind of take the third behind a push like that, right? And you're like, oh, I get the economy, but he just wanted to build the turrets. Like, he was just going to double down on, like, I want this push to do a lot, and clearly knew that it could, and obviously he went in and did as well. And it's off the back of killing 10 probes early, right? Those Hellions get in, they do a bunch of damage. You know it's a struggle for the pros to then afford everything they need to hold an attack like that, so you're right to then kind of go for the double down. And maybe if he didn't get that damage, maybe then he does say, okay, cool, I'm going to push, but I'm also going to have my third behind it. That's the kind of choice he can make from that point. So, great game 1 from Coffe, and he's going to go into game 2. Oceanborn. We keep seeing Oceanborn as game 2 today, Ben. Every single time.
You know, it's a good standard map, isn't it, Wardy? It really is. Like, it's been around for a while now, and the players like it. Again, not going too much to the crazy stuff, but I like it. You really get to test your metal. It's one of those as well where it's like, no significant advantage on either side. Good stuff, Wardy. Good stuff.
All right, well, let's get into it as we have in the top left-hand corner the player who is up 1-0 in this best of 3, looking to improve to 2-1 in this Asia Swiss group. It is Coffe. Can't not say it like that anymore, mate.
No, I mean, I see his name now. I'm just like, freaking hell. I see this big, you know, unevolved wheezing, and I'm just like, yeah, that's you, mate. That's you. All right. Spawning in the bottom right, as our red Protoss, it is SCV. I liked everything about that opening from Coffe. And here, he's sending out an SCV, but this one, it's after the gas has started, so a little bit later. This usually is very indicative of a engineering bay block. And I mean, Cyclones have changed. They're not as good at switching targets, but that doesn't mean they're not good initially on the single target they have, and also have a bit more health as well. I would not be surprised if this just turns into a nice engineering bay block from Coffe, and you see that SCV is scouting around for that SCV, or at least something, and he does spot it nice and early, and he's pulling another probe as well, just to try and get things done over here. So, I mean, this, honestly, nice prep out of SCV, but that dancing, that RNG is definitely on Coffee's side.
I mean, he is putting the effort in as well. Like, he's stopping building and restarting, which gives the SCV a chance to then move to a different build position. And that's exactly what's happening there. And it causes you to actually get, what, like, half the engineering bay up? Whereas if he'd done nothing at all, this would have been like 10-20% of an engineering bay. So it's a big HP difference now for these probes to chew through. That's going to make a big difference for the next couple moments.
Absolutely is. Absolutely is. And I mean, I think SCV handled that all pretty well as well, you know? Like, scouted for it, got to see it coming into the base, pulled the probes pretty damn decently, but Coffe still made the most out of that, and still back at home, getting everything sorted. I wonder what that SCV is coming down here for. I wonder if he's going to try and go for, like, another factory or a starport. Yeah, it could be.
Second factory would be wild.
The way that he's positioned it, though, it could be either or. Maybe you're absolutely right with the starport. Goes for the command center as well. So, I mean, there are layers to this, which we see from Coffe in the first game. And so far, step one, it's kind of been accomplished.
Yeah, and there's going to be that starport. I think also the fact he only has one gas. So double factory production would typically be for Cyclones, right? And then it's hard to afford off one gas, even though Cyclones are cheap as chips nowadays. So, yeah, going to be seeing the Hellion production instead. And obviously 4 Hellions and a proxied starport can be pretty darn deadly. We saw how good the Hellions were last time. And that was with no medevac at all. So potential is absolutely there.
You cheap as chips, mate. I always like casting with you and Galaris, so like
yeah.
the true Northern English coming out and stuff. Yeah, absolutely. I was reading a book to my little boy the other day, and there was like it's a rhyming book, right? And it was like Wanda rhymed with anaconda, and Alice looked at me and she was like, that is the most English rhyme I've ever heard. And I'm like, what? Why? And she's like, because if an American said that, trying to rhyme Wanda with anaconda, they couldn't do it, you know? Like, that is because we add an R to all the A's at the end, you know, kind of thing. But yeah, I always love the English out of you lads. And so far, SCV getting up this nice little wall at the front. Oh, he misses it a little bit. I tell you what, that could have been real spicy.
That could have been real spicy, but he's going to have the medevac, so I think he didn't even really want to go in anyways, right? Because he wants to drop into the main instead. Now, these units still have to guess where this drop is coming from, and he is going to move in position, so he's going to be in the right place. That's going to give him the defense here. It means he gets rid of one Hellion very quickly. We're still in one-shot range, though, so these Hellions will still get some kills. We're going to get a couple, maybe even can lift into the medevac to get away, remember? And then we can drop on the natural and still get some kills slowly with the 2 Hellions over the next few moments, or even just deny mining time is obviously a big deal too. So I would say not the most successful Hellion drop of all time, but it still gets the job done, especially with the additional denied mining on the natural now.
No, yeah, all things said and done, I think SCV has got away with murder this game. Like, you know, he's been very well prepared, but any one of these things could have resulted in him just losing the game. And that is one of the frustrating things about StarCraft, where in the blink of an eye, you know, you just die. Everything dies. But he had probes in the right positions to spot where things were. Coffe kind of mishit one of those shots there that didn't target the same probe. It was all different ones. And now we've got a game where if you were to just tune in and look at both these situations, you'd be like, oh yeah, pretty standard TVP, right? And I mean, it kind of is in a way, because this kind of stuff has become far more normal, but the way that they've got there, not the most standard.
Yeah. No, it's definitely been a weird routing to get to this point, but yeah, from this point on, I mean, third Nexus finishes, the Stim coming up, we're still playing Marine Tank, and a Liberator to kind of harass with too. You're right, it does look pretty normal across the board, just was not the easiest and smoothest ways to get into this stage. Have that charge on the way from SCV, so just continue to kind of get his tech on the go. Following up that blink with the charge is obviously never a bad thing. Yeah, honestly looking fine. Even going to take map control of this Stalker army, which is good because Coffee's starting to push a little bit. And if you can greet this out on the map, that's great. He's pulling a few SCVs again, so you really want to stop this getting in position, because once it's in position, we saw in the last game just how troublesome that can be.
Absolutely. I love the fact that he came out to greet this with what he has. Hey, those Hellions, man, they're back for seconds over here, and 3 probes. This is just tasking the multitasking of his opponent, but that Stalker count is actually quite scary here. Like, Coffe has to be careful with this army, and those poor Hellions shooting the wrong target, Wardy.
They could have done so much, man. Like, they had so much potential here as the Stalkers want to go for the Liberator, but they take a big tank shot in the process, which means that Lib will survive. The Stalkers took a beating. I'm just not sure if Coffe has enough to really be here. Super Battery already popped. That feels very preemptive. Unless we're going to go right now, and we do just blink straight in. We get rid of the Lib. The tank took a second volley, which is a big pain, as now we lose the Immortal as well. The Battery was busy healing up Stalkers, and that was actually very good for Coffe. So that part of the fight, way better for him.
Yeah, and Shield Battery's been used now. The overcharge, that is, and now he can start to solidify. That Marine count's getting higher as well. Charge is done, but one Zealot. I mean, those tanks need to shoot the Stalkers. That's exactly what they do. That Immortal being a little bit timid as well in the top there, running away. And Coffe, I tell you what, he is absolutely making the most out of this push, because this looked like it was kind of, I don't want to say doomed to fail, but this has done a lot of damage. And look at this, very patient out of him, just being like, you know what? I think I've done as much damage as I can get done.
Yeah, he ends up pulling back, so heading to the upper left-hand side now instead. And probably not a bad idea, especially with charge done, a couple more Zealot Warpins, and the tanks are just so much less effective against Zealots than they are the Stalkers, so I think that's absolutely us heading back in the right kind of direction now, as we have a couple more barracks coming up, +1 attack, combat shield all coming through, that Robo Bay, and a couple extra gateways coming in as well, as we have our probes still producing, and it is a second Robo Bay from SCV. Uh-oh, getting a little bit caught up in the game. That's a mistake. I mean, the game is close enough that the cost of an extra Robo Bay can absolutely have an impact on what you're doing.
So Coffe, for all that pushing, he was only on 2 barracks, and he did get stim fairly nice and early, and he's going up to 5 barracks now on 2 bases. So, I mean, these little mistakes where you have, like, double Robo Bay instead, these are crucial in this kind of situation. Losing lost mining time as well, because Coffe, he does not plan on making this a long one, Wardy. Like, combat shields is finished up. I mean, blinking into that medevac, he will deal with the medevac, but these are stim Marines, man. They deal a lot of damage, yeah.
Yeah, this should have been the kind of trade where you just didn't need to blink in, right? Because if you, by blinking in, that's where these Marines can actually finish off the Stalkers. Otherwise, this was never going to be a factor. 5 probes as well. I mean, that was actually so bad for SCV. Coffe somehow gets an amazing trade-off with the tiniest of drops. He's already pulled the SCVs from the natural, so these Zealots are going to be, holding up reinforcements, and actually this tank is not going to go down, is it? No, it survives too, so it might get to come across the map. The SCVs are here, and Coffee's ready for an attack in against someone who's really lacking splash damage. 5 siege tanks already on the front doorstep, and the SCVs to buffer as well is a huge factor. I mean, that disruptor that's on the way cannot come soon enough right now for SCV.
It really can't, and it's kind of sad, right? When your Zealot run-by turns up and it's like, all right, killing SCVs. Wait a minute, where are they? They're in your base, mate. And, I mean, SCV still has a lot of units, but it's definitely a little bit all over the shop here, isn't it? Like, Zealots ran in alone and the rest of the army moving back, and now he's on 2 bases like his opponent.
And he fired the disruptor way too early there as well. It was not, in no world was that ever going to have a chance of connecting. Love the tanks as well, target firing the Stalkers initially and the Immortals, and look how quickly they meld. Let the bio deal with the Zealots, don't let any friendly fire come off, and you can see the army supply of Coffe, 61 to 26, is looking absolutely spot on. This disruptor shot's beautiful, triple tank shot, so we are going to get 2 of them low and kill off 1, but now the robo facility depowered. I mean, Coffe just has too many units. He pushes into the natural expansion, and SCV is fighting his final fight here in game number 2 and in this series, because Coffe is just not slowing down. GG's.
Coffe, I mean, he